The wind howled like a beast unleashed as the Batavia set sail from Texel, Netherlands, on the crisp morning of October 27, 1628. The ship was a masterpiece of the Dutch East India Company, VOC, its hull reinforced to withstand the perils of the open sea. Laden with riches and over 300 souls, sailors, soldiers, merchants, and civilians, it embarked on a treacherous journey to Batavia, modern-day Jakarta. Francisco Pelsaert, the fleet commander, stood on deck, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon. He was a man of duty, bound by his loyalty to the VOC. Below him, Arian Jacobs, the ship's captain, maneuvered the vessel expertly, though his mind was clouded with resentment. He had grown weary of Pelsaert's rigid discipline and saw opportunity in the vast, lawless seas. And then there was Jeronimus Cornelisz, a disgraced apothecary fleeing a past riddled with scandal. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. As the Batavia crossed the Atlantic, making its way past the Cape of Good Hope and into the Indian Ocean, tension brewed. The sailors, weary from months at sea, murmured among themselves, their whispers carried by the wind. Provisions were running low, and the heat of the tropics bore down on them like an iron vice. Below deck, the stench of unwashed bodies and rotting food soured the air, fueling tempers already frayed by confinement. Jacobs and Cornelisz found a common cause: mutiny. The plan was simple: provoke unrest, seize the ship, and carve a new life as pirates. Cornelisz, ever the cunning manipulator, identified men who could be swayed: discontented sailors who loathed the VOC's iron rule, those who had debts waiting for them back home, and those who simply craved adventure beyond the rigid structure of the company. Whispered conversations in the dead of night cemented their resolve, and soon, a quiet rebellion was brewing below the decks. The Batavia pressed forward into the unknown. The vast, unbroken ocean stretched before them like a cruel joke, concealing dangers in its endless horizon. Storms came and went, their ferocity testing the resilience of ship and crew alike. Waves crashed over the deck, drenching men in salt water and fear. Some whispered that the ship was cursed, that doom followed in its wake like an unseen specter. On the night of June 4th, 1629, under a sky freckled with stars, disaster struck. A sudden jolt sent men tumbling to the deck. The Batavia had slammed into a coral reef, Morning Reef in the Houtman Abrolhos off the western coast of Australia. The hull groaned under the weight of the sea, its wooden belly torn open. Cries of alarm rang out as the ship lurched violently, throwing men and cargo alike into chaos. Panic consumed the passengers. Sailors screamed, water gushed in torrents, and in the confusion, over 40 souls were swallowed by the deep. Those who survived clambered onto makeshift rafts, reaching the barren, desolate shores of Beacon Island. In the cold light of dawn, they beheld their grim new reality, an inhospitable wasteland, devoid of shelter, food, or hope. Pelsaert, recognizing the impending doom, made a desperate decision. With a handful of trusted men, he took the ship's longboat and set out for Batavia, hoping to secure rescue. The survivors, left behind, believed help would come. They did not yet realize that their greatest threat was not the sea, but each other. With Pelsaert gone, Cornelisz saw his moment to act. He took control, spinning words of fear and false hope. He sent Wiebbe Hayes, a soldier of integrity, and a group of men to a nearby island, claiming there might be water. In truth, Cornelisz hoped they would perish. He then set about eliminating anyone he deemed a liability. Those who resisted were drowned, strangled, or gutted. Women were taken as concubines, their cries swallowed by the unrelenting winds. Days turned to weeks, and the bloodbath continued. Cornelisz, drunk on power, believed himself unstoppable. He established a reign of terror, using brutality as his currency. Men who once called each other friends were turned against one another, their survival instincts driving them to desperate measures. Those who failed to submit were discarded, their bodies left to rot beneath the unforgiving sun. Against all odds, Hayes and his men had survived. They had found water and built defenses, arming themselves with stones and makeshift weapons. As survivors from Cornelisz's tyranny escaped and reached Hayes, they relayed the horrors they had witnessed. Hayes vowed to put an end to it. When Cornelisz realized Hayes was alive, he sent men to finish the job. The battles were fierce, but Hayes and his soldiers repelled every attack. With each victory, their ranks grew, bolstered by those seeking justice. Hayes, though outnumbered and outmatched in weaponry, fought with the determination of a man who refused to let evil triumph. Then, on the horizon, salvation arrived. Pelsert had returned aboard the Sardom. Both Hayes and Cornelisz scrambled to reach him first. But the truth could not be hidden. Pelsert listened in horror as survivors recounted Cornelisz's atrocities. There would be no mercy. Justice was swift. Cornelisz, his hands severed as punishment for his crimes, was hanged on the very island he had stained with blood. His mutineers met similar fates, their bodies swaying in the harsh island winds. Some pleaded for their lives, their voices lost in the howling gusts. Others accepted their fate in silence, their eyes hollow with the weight of their deeds. Only a handful of survivors returned to civilization, forever scarred by what they had endured. The wreck of the Batavia remained, its bones scattered beneath the waves, a grim reminder of ambition turned to madness. Centuries later, the tale of the Batavia continues to haunt history, a chilling testament to the depths of human depravity and the unyielding spirit of those who resisted. Even now, divers explore the sunken remnants of the Batavia, and historians piece together its dark legacy. Museums display artifacts recovered from the depths, whispering the tale of survival and treachery to those willing to listen. And as the wind howls through the remains of the wreck, one can almost hear the ghosts of the past, forever trapped in the echoes of their tragedy. The journey of the Batavia, however, was more than just a shipwreck. It was a stark revelation of what lies beneath the surface of human nature when society's restraints are stripped away. The mutiny and massacre that followed showcased both the vilest and the most heroic aspects of humanity. As Cornelisz's faction ruled through bloodshed and tyranny, Hayes and his men exemplified leadership, resilience, and unwavering resistance against overwhelming odds. For those who walk the museum halls where the Batavia's relics are displayed, there is an eerie sense of stepping back in time. The rusted remains of weapons, pieces of clothing, and personal belongings whisper the final moments of those who perished. It is a story that refuses to be silenced, a ghostly reminder of a ship that set sail with the promise of fortune, only to become a legend drenched in blood. And so, the Batavia remains one of the most infamous shipwrecks in history, its tale etched into the annals of time, a chilling reminder that sometimes the greatest danger is not the sea, but the people who sail upon it.